morning, everyone. My name is David Yackel. I'm a member of this church, and it is my job to welcome you this morning to our service. We'll invite you to take out your phones, check in today if you use social media, and then silence those phones. Want everybody to know as well as the exits in the back, we do have 2 exits in the front on either side of the stage. We want to welcome those that are able to visit with us today in person and are seeing this on live stream as well. Has anybody brought any visitors that to service with us today that we could recognize? If so, please stand and say hello. Tell us where you're from if you feel up to doing so. Do we have any visitors? Nobody wanting to do that today. That's fine. Just realize that we do welcome you here at the church this morning. I do want to remind everyone there is a very important church chat happening at 12:30 today in Conover after the service, and I encourage you all to attend.
Again, good morning and welcome. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, wherever the journey finds you this morning, if you come in goodwill, you are welcome here. It is not a thing to be taken lightly, welcome. Time was when welcome was the difference between life and death in the sandstorm or the snowstorm, in the drought or the pogrom or the escape from slavery. Welcome is life to the newborn infant, to the castaway, to the refugee. Welcome is sustenance to the lonely and the wounded and the desperate. Welcome is hope to the bereaved, to the lost, to the repentant, to the confused. Come in goodwill, each one. Come willing to hear and to be heard, to change and to be changed. Come to grow and learn. Come to nurture and teach. Come to embrace the lessons of the past and the friendships of this day. Come to explore a new idea, to heal an old wound, to find the still center in a churning world. Welcome first the distracted self, and here may perplexity breathe into clarity. Welcome the tense, preoccupied companions around us, and here may hurry, calm into deep mutual attention. Welcome the universe, endlessly orbiting and evolving. Here may the cascades of sensation resolve into immense harmonies, and our anxiety into praise. Here let us confess our divisions, renew our intentions, and be claimed again by a loyalty to the common good. As we move now from scattered to gathered, let us in goodwill welcome one another into community, here in the covenant of memory and promise, now in this hour of worship together. In token of that welcome, we kindle once again this chalice. May it shine forth as a beacon to all who seek the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the ideals worthy of spending our lives for.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Cyan, and I light this chalice for the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
Thank you, Cyan. Let's rise as you are willing and able, and speak once more the words of our community's promise to one another. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And will you remain standing for our opening hymn?
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way. On the road from greed to giving, love will guide us through the hard night.
Our commitment to human fellowship means that we are called upon to be glad with those who rejoice and to weep with those who mourn. Therefore, we set aside this time in our worship together to share with one another the joys and concerns that are now shaping our lives. May the beauty and sweetness of these brief flowers remind us to hold one another in the bonds of sympathy, encouragement, and care. We'll have a few moments at the end of our sharing time when the cameras will be turned off. If you'd like to wait until then, I'll let you know when that happens. I'd like to begin with a flower of sorrow for the loss of our longtime friend, Hetty Reeds, who died this week. Are there others? Yeah, Jeff.
So I hope that we can hold in our hearts the long-suffering people of Venezuela. And I'm hopeful that things will be brighter for them soon, with a minimum of suffering and grief coming out of all of the problems that they have there.
Thank you for that reminder.
Good morning. My name is Amy Robertson. And this week, my husband, Joe Robertson, on Thursday, will be finishing up his journalism career of 34 years. He's written about so many different things. The past several years, he's really focused on social justice and poverty, education, and he has a great opportunity he's going to, but this is his last week of journalism.
Yeah, right. Yay, Joe. Congratulations. Yeah. We've been very proud of you.
My name is Beth Andes, and my joy is that I have found a community of like-minded people that I'm working with to educate people about a universal healthcare one-payer system for the United States. And we are actively out there promoting, advocating, speaking, educating, and it really gives me a lot of energy, so I'm excited.
Good, thank you. Good to know.
My name is Anita Malott, and I just want to say that I have really enjoyed this winter. As I was telling the people in my membership committee, I feel like it has both brought out the kid in me and the tough old lady. And so here's to winter.
And may it be over soon.
I'm glad somebody did. I am full of joy. After 50 years, I have retired. Yay! Yay! So now, now that I got to still be alive, I'm a little short of breath. But other than that, what new venture? I really want to be a therapeutic clown with geriatrics. So keep thinking about that. If anybody knows anything about it, I need to train for that. Okay, so I'm glad to be here. Really thankful.
And we look forward to meeting your clown self. That will be a lot of fun.
Hey, so back in the summer, I think, my doctor told me that if I didn't make some serious diet changes, I was going to get type 2 diabetes, and I did, and I've beaten it. Also, spring is right around the corner, so this is also for that.
Congratulations. That's great. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Those who know me know that I'm an activist on climate issues. I don't have a personal joy or sorrow, but I want to say how joyful it makes me feel that these students, middle school students, high school students, are standing up and walking out of their schools and saying, you adults have dallied long enough. We're not going to stand for it anymore. And it was started by one Swedish, I think she was 15 at the time, now 16, Greta Thunberg, just stopped showing up at school on every Friday. And it's swept through Europe. It's coming to the United States, March 15th. Hey, All Souls students.
Hey, John. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Gibbons, and to those watching on the stream, the camera's not moving because I'm not back there moving it, but I will soon. I just wanted to remind everyone that pitchers and catchers have reported, and the first goal workouts in spring training started this past week. Spring is almost here.
That is a joy.
My name is Rakmi, and I have a joy. This week I met a lady who was really concerned about the division and the hatred that is going on in our community, in the world, and she was really sad. So I just pointed out to her that, well, there you are. People like you are very welcoming and accepting of people like us. And so I just want to thank you, all of you, the church here, for accepting of people like us. And I think it is our humor, our love that is going to get us through this week. So I rejoice with all of you.
So true. Thank you, Rakmi.
Forgive me. I hope everybody can hear me. Okay, there we go. It's not the microphone, it's my voice. So I'd like to share a sorrow, just kind of in general, for everybody that has too much on their plate, that is overextended and under-rested, and just kind of know that it's not going to be forever. Your struggles will be rewarded, and that your toil will bring fruitfulness and happiness. So that's the one.
I'm glad to hear that. Do you want to put a flower? Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Carol White. I have a sadness and a joy. My daughter Allie was diagnosed with breast cancer. She's had a double mastectomy. The joy is because she's doing so well, and we truly believe it's because of all the good wishes, support, and love that this community has sent her.
She is in our hearts. Is there anyone, we'll turn the cameras away. Is there anyone who would like to come up without being broadcast? If not, then I will place one final flower for all the outreachings of the Spirit that abide unspoken in our hearts, and invite you to join me in the congregational response that will be on the screen. Let's read this together. In the name of the daybreak, and the eyelids of morning, and the wayfaring moon and the night when it departs, let us swear not to dishonor our souls with hatred, but offer ourselves humbly as guardians of nature, as healers of misery, as messengers of wonder, as architects of peace. And in this spirit, we will excuse our children to their classes with song.
Go now in peace, may love guide all your ways. Beauty be the blessing of your nights and days. Truth on your lips and kindness in your deeds. Faith to follow where the human spirit leads.
Some people like being here for this one.
I love the sound of children in our church. I've been a member of All Souls for more than 20 years. I'm currently the assistant treasurer on the board of directors. Among the things I most appreciate about being a member of All Souls is that we come here together to teach our children, mark rites of passage, and inspire ourselves to get through the next week. I am acutely aware of our unique place in our greater community. When people, even strangers, learn that I am a member of All Souls, their faces light up in recognition. They seem instantly to know that I am a good person. They know All Souls and understand and admire our values. They know us. They know us at a greater level than often we realize. They know who we are by our values and our actions in the community. Please join me in supporting our All Souls community as the offering is now given and gratefully received.
mission at the heart of this congregation: to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
From the book of Genesis, chapter 18. Then God said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have actually done according to the outcry that has come to me. And if not, I will know. So the strangers turned from there and went toward Sodom. But Abraham stood still before God. Then Abraham drew near and said, would you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you indeed sweep away the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous who are in it? Surely you would not put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that they were treated just the same. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? And God said, if I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered and said, behold, I have undertaken to speak to God, I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Will you destroy the whole city for the lack of 5? And he said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 there. And he spoke to him and said, suppose 40 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 40, I will not do it. Then he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 are found there. He answered, I will not do it if 30 be there. He said, behold, I have undertaken again to speak to God. Suppose 20 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, oh, let the Lord not be angry, and I will speak but this once more. Suppose 10 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. And the Lord went his way when he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his home.
To the Wife of a Sick Friend by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Shelter this candle from the wind. Hold it steady. In its light, the cave wherein we wander lost glitters with frosty stalactite, blossoms with mineral rose and lotus, sparkles with crystal moon and stars, till a man would rather be lost than found. We have forgotten where we are. Shelter this candle. Shrewdly blowing down the cave from a secret door enters our only foe, the wind. Hold it steady, lest we stand, each in a separate, sudden dark, the hot wind spattered upon your hand, the smoke wick in my nostrils strong, the inner eyelid red and green for a moment yet with moons and roses. Then the unmitigated dark, alone in a terrible place, in utter dark, without a face, with only the dripping of the water on the stone, and the sound of your tears, and the taste of my own.
A couple of weeks ago, I accepted Butch Murphy's challenge to explore the work of the Roman poet Lucretius in his lengthy philosophical verse about the nature of things. This is a thing that philosophers do, and religious type people too. We try to figure out the truest answers we can find to the most basic and important questions that we can manage to ask. One of those questions that we keep coming back to over the centuries and the millennia is this one. What is the world, the universe, life itself, this whole shebang that we are part of? What is it like? What is it we are dealing with here at its most basic level? Lucretius and his teacher Epicurus said that you could picture it as an infinite number of teeny tiny particles falling like rain through a completely empty void, and occasionally randomly bumping into each other. Remember that? This morning I want to invite us to explore another very different kind of proposed answer to this question. A suggestion not from more than 2,000 years ago, but from an author who looks to be about half my age, from a magazine article published almost 2 months ago. Alexandra Rowland is a writer of fantasy fiction and a blogger and a podcaster who suggests that the universe we inhabit as human beings consists of stories. What determines our experience of living is the stories that we tell and that we believe about ourselves and others. This is what the human brain has been designed for, after all. It is our one evolutionary gift. Not faster muscles or sharper claws or stronger venom, but pattern recognition and narrative structure. That's our specialty. And it's obviously powerful. It has allowed us to carve out this enormous ecological niche for our species, the very hugeness of which may quite possibly be our doom. As we consider both the ecological and political prospects of the current era, there has arisen a new genre of dystopian narrative in science fiction, in graphic novels, and in movies that is being described as grimdark. These are stories of post-apocalyptic worlds, either on this planet or elsewhere, in which there is neither trust nor any basis for trust in human cultural relations. Roland puts it this way: the essence of grimdark is that everyone's inherently sort of a bad person and does bad things, and that's awful and disheartening and cynical. It's looking at human nature and going, the glass is always half empty. This is the world of hopelessly corrupt political and financial power, of intractable white male privilege, of irremediable environmental collapse, of inevitable betrayal, even where care or good intentions may have once existed. It is the sort of society in which mutual suspicion is the norm, where moral ideals are folly and gullibility is always fatal, where everyone is seeking to exploit everyone else. It is the Gilead of The Handmaid's Tale, the King's Landing of Game of Thrones, the Panem of the Hunger Games. It is Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach, where the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. It is Thomas Hobbes's view of our essential nature, in which human life is of itself inevitably solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. It is a perspective that is indeed both grim and dark. Over against this sort of narrative, there are two opposing views. The one that is probably most familiar and comfortingly traditional to folks like you and me is called Noble Bright. Says Roland, Noble Bright is about goodness and truth and vanquishing evil forever, about a core of goodness in humanity. It's most of the Arthurian legends, the Star Wars original trilogy, or Narnia. In Noble Bright, when we overthrow the Dark Lord, the world is saved and our work is done. Equilibrium and serenity return to the land. Our king is kind and good and pure of heart. That's why he's king. That's a story for you. In this story, when you fight, you win. When you believe in something good and noble, you prevail. People have an essential core of goodness in them. People will change their minds, will learn, will grow, will repent, will earn forgiveness. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. The dragon can be slain. The great evil can be obliterated from the world. Love always wins. It's all very nice. You ask Noble Bright, what's the point? And the answer is vanquishing the great evil, finishing the work, saving the world, winning. The problem with the Noble Bright paradigm is that there is no real, permanent, happily ever after. The world never remains saved, and the emperor always turns out to be missing at least a few articles of clothing. Says Roland, the work is never finished. The work will never be finished. There will never be a nice, comfortable utopia where we can rest on our laurels and sip strawberry daiquiris by the pool and trust that now things are fine and we can all relax. There's no such thing as winning forever. Evil cannot be vanquished only beaten back for a day or two, and then it trickles back in like water seeping through cracks in a dam. Utopia is not a stable system. It doesn't last. The best we can hope for is 5 minutes, an hour. The world has never been nice. The world has always and only been a never-ending Darwinian struggle for survival, an empire of unsheathed knives and hungers, clawing at each other and climbing over each other in a mad riot, pushing our boots down into someone else's face to heave ourselves up a little higher or risk being trampled ourselves. Roland continues, but once in a while, the people toward the middle of the heap manage to look down and see the mass of wretched bodies below, the base of the pyramid that's supporting them. And for a moment, they see the instability of their own position, that their pyramid isn't built on solid ground, but on human flesh and human pain. For a moment, they see, and the illusion of niceness is wrenched away from them, and they weep. But still not for the people below them whose suffering has gone on so long. They weep like children over the teddy bear that's been snatched out of their hands. They weep only because the world suddenly isn't as nice as they thought. And it's hard to deal with that. You see others' pain, she says, only when it's gone on for eternities already. It is not new. The world has always been on fire. We have always been monstrous to each other. Roland quotes Terry Pratchett's 1996 novel Hogfather. Take this universe and grind it down to the finest powder and sieve it through the finest sieve, and then show me one atom of justice, one molecule of mercy. And yet you act as if there is some ideal order in the world, as if there is some rightness in the universe by which it may be judged. But she says, when you stop believing that there is even an atom of justice or a molecule of mercy in the world, what's the point then? How do you go on without that? The other possible narrative frame is what Roland terms Hopepunk. She says, Hopepunk says, no, I don't accept that. Go screw yourself. The glass is half full. Yeah, we're all a messy mix of good and bad, flaws and virtues. We've all been mean and petty and cruel, but, and here's the important part, we've also been soft and forgiving and kind. Hopepunk says that kindness and softness don't equal weakness, and that in this world of brutal cynicism and nihilism, being kind is a political act, an act of rebellion, of resistance. What do we do when our hands are empty, when our warm cloaks are gone, when we look around and see how big this world is, she asks, when we see how helpless and insignificant we are, how the rest of the world isn't even particularly cruel or evil, just mediocre, complacent? If there are gods watching over us, please, please deliver us from complacency. And if there aren't, if we're all alone in the dark and our candles guttering, what do we do? How can we go on? What's the point? Well, besides being monstrous to each other, there's another thing that humans are particularly good at. She says, have you ever started a fire with 2 sticks? Have you ever looked up into the night sky and thought that perhaps it wouldn't really be so hard to count all the stars? Have you ever built a library in Alexandria? Have you ever walked to the North Pole? How do you do it? How do you manage when the task before you is enormous and impossible? How do you go on? Here's how you start a fire with 2 sticks. Sheer, simple, bloody-minded obstinacy. That's how you count the stars, build the library, go to the North Pole. That's how you hold the story, even when it's unraveling in your hands. You grit your teeth and bear the pain and keep going, 1 star at a time, 1 brick at a time, 1 step at a time. You can do a lot when you decide to be a stubborn bastard who refuses to die. It's not about glory or noble deeds. It's not about an end result because there is no end. There's always a tomorrow, and when the sun rises again, we'll still have a dam holding back the water for now. But entropy is real, and dams must be maintained, and it takes all of us to do it. And it's done by linking arms with the people next to you, by building a community with deliberate intent. The fight itself is the point. It's about how the first step to slaying a dragon, she says, is for one person to say, probably drunk in a bar somewhere, I bet it can be done, though. It's about being kind merely for the sake of kindness, because you have the means to be, and giving a crap because the world is somehow mysteriously, against all evidence, worth it. And we don't have anywhere else to go anyway. It's about digging in your heels and believing that one single atom of justice, one molecule of mercy does exist somewhere in the mind-boggling vastness of the universe. Believing in that, even if for no other reason than screw you, buddy, I do what I want, and this is what I want. This is the world I want to live in. One where the atom of justice exists, even if I've never seen it myself, even if I'll never see it. It's about doing the one little thing you can do, even if it's useless. Planting seeds in the midst of the apocalypse, spitting on a wildfire, bailing out the ocean with a bucket. Individual action, she says, is almost always pointless. Hope and strength comes from our bonds with each other, from the actions we take as a community, holding hands in the dark. Nobility and righteousness, she says, look really stylish and cool, and they keep you safe from criticism. How nice. But they'll tire you out. The night is dark and the fight is long, and there are no knights in shining armor waiting in the wings to slay the dragon at just the right moment of dramatic tension. So be spiteful, be petty, be rude, I don't know. Do whatever you have to do as long as you're doing something, as long as you're taking hold of the world around you in a real way and yanking it in the direction of slightly less terrible. She says, armchair ethicists wonder, if a man has a gun to your friend's head, isn't you hurting him just as bad as him hurting your friend? No, it isn't. Also, what's wrong with you? Punch the man with the gun. Save your friend. We want the world to be better, kinder, more just, more merciful. We still yearn towards noble bright, toward an honest and desperate belief that love conquers all. except when the other guy has more guns and fewer moral objections than we do. It doesn't. Give a damn about the world around you, about the people around you, about the people who aren't around you, about the people on the other side of the world for no other reason than because they're people who love their children, who laugh, who dance, who kiss, who cry. We forget sometimes, she says, that we have knives too in this empire, that we can unsheathe them, that we can turn our blades to the defense of an atom of justice and a molecule of mercy that might not even exist except for where we make them exist, in the hands we hold out to each other, and in the shelter we offer even when we ourselves are exhausted, footsore, and filthy, and complicit with the wolves at our doors. There are no heroes and no villains, she concludes. There are just people. That's Hopepunk. Whether the glass is half full or half empty, that's what matters. That there is still water in that glass, and that is something worth defending. Now, I don't know about you, but growing up in this liberal religious tradition, I was raised on Noble Bright. I suspect we all were. The idea that the day would come when we would reach the promised land and everyone would recognize the natural laws of justice and compassion written on their hearts, and a world of sustainable goodness would commence. A world of peace, the beloved community. Greed and ignorance and cruelty would be defeated finally for good. That was the story we told each other, the story we wanted to be part of, the story we thought was well underway, with just a few details yet to be cleared up. I have preached that narrative myself. How could I not? It was the story I learned, the story I told myself. And if the only alternative is resignation to the grimdark universe, who wouldn't cling to the noble, bright promise of moral heroes and a golden age to come? I could spend a whole sermon or more unpacking Christianity along these lines. The passion of Jesus, his phony trial before corrupt authorities, give us Barabbas, the agonies of the cross. That's grimdark. The shiny angels announcing resurrection from death, and of all of us waiting for the second coming in glory to inaugurate the kingdom of God. That's noble bright. You know what's Hopepunk? The Last Supper. This bread, this wine, these friends. The community we build that maybe survives even betrayal and denial and suffering and sorrow, all the while giving the finger to Rome. The promise that every time a few of us gather like this, that one molecule of mercy is somewhere not far away, close enough to keep us going. Abraham talked God down from 50 righteous people to 10, but even that was too much, evidently. The cities were still destroyed. The cities are always destroyed, if not by God's wrath, then by the bombs of empire, or the plague, or the nuclear fallout, or the rising seas. Grimdark is easy, like cynicism and the complacency of despair. Noble Bright summons us to look for righteous heroes and final solutions. It's a dangerous, combustible proposition, it seems to me, prone to corruption, idolatry, and pious violence, if history is any indication. Hopepunk calls us instead to acts of faith, to personal moments of commitment and connection and resistance that create tiny atoms of justice and molecules of mercy floating randomly on the tides of monstrousness. Hopepunk calls us to weep not only for our own comforting innocence lost, but for the actual pain of real people that predates our awareness by ages. It calls us to use the resources we have, all our wits, all our tools, all our powers, to yank the world in the direction of slightly less terrible. Hopepunk teaches us not to wait for some golden age when we shed our evolutionary heritage and the human condition resolves into some endless harmony, but rather to use the capacities we come with, the built-in options of resilience that we already have, to produce the softly illuminated moments of care and kindness and truth-telling that add one molecule of mercy to this place. The poet W.H. Auden understood Hopepunk back in 1939 when he concluded one of his best-known works with these words: "Defenseless under night, our world in stupor lies. Yet dotted everywhere, ironic points of light flash out, wherever the just exchange their messages. May I, composed like them of eros and of dust, beleaguered by the same negation and despair, show an affirming flame." And let the people say, Amen. Amen. Let's rise and sing.
Forswear thy foolish ways. Old now is earth, and none may count its days. Yet humankind, whose head is crowned with flame, still will not hear the inner God proclaim. Turn back, forswear thy foolish ways. Earth might be fair, its people glad and wise. Age after age, our tragic empires rise. Built while we dream, and in that dreaming would we but wake from out our haunted sleep, earth might be fair and people glad and wise. Earth shall be fair and all its people one, nor till the house shall God's Now, even now, once more from earth to sky, peals forth in joy that old undaunted cry. Earth shall be fair, and all its people one.
So we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fires of commitment. For all these we carry in our own minds and hearts until we are together again. So hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree that stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. Hold on to my hand, even when we are apart, and go in peace.
May a song of peace be yours. May a song of hope be mine. May a song of love be ours until we meet again.